Extortionist hackers may be using leaked computer exploits from the U.S. National Security Agency infiltrated computers in dozens of countries in a fast-spreading attack that forced British hospitals to turn away patients and breached systems at Spain's Telefonica SA and organizations from Russia to Taiwan. The ransomware used in Friday's cyberattacks encrypts files and demands that victims pay $300 in Bitcoin for them to be decrypted. The latest in a vexing style of security breaches that, at the very least, forces organizations to revert to backup systems to keep critical systems running. The malicious software has infected more than 75,000 computers in 99 countries worldwide on Friday, most of them concentrated in Russia, Ukraine, and Taiwan, according to Dutch cybersecurity company Avast Software BV. The attackers were exploiting a vulnerability in Microsoft Corporation's software that was patched in March, according to cybersecurity researchers. Attack code targeting that vulnerability was released publicly by Shadow Brokers, a group that has been leaking stolen hacking tools purportedly from the NSA. That connection has given critics of U.S. hacking ammunition for their argument that governments finding flaws in commercial technologies and keeping them secret for the purpose of exploiting them can carry a public risk. These attacks underscore the fact that vulnerabilities will be exploited not just by our security agencies, but by hackers and criminals around the world, said Patrick Toomey, a staff attorney at the American Civil Liberties Union's National Security Project. It is past time for Congress to enhance cybersecurity by passing a law that requires the government to disclose vulnerabilities to companies in a timely manner. Patching security holes immediately, not stockpiling them, is the best way to make everyone's digital life safer. While the victim tally is likely to grow, the ransomware, called WannaCrypt 0R, only affects computers that haven't applied Microsoft's 2-month-old fix. A reminder that individuals and organizations that don't routinely update their machines are vulnerable. Hospitals are notoriously slow in applying security fixes, in part because of how disruptive it is to take patient-facing equipment and databases offline. That has made them a reliable target of ransomware and identity theft attacks, and why they routinely fall victim even to random mass attacks. In the UK on Friday, hospitals urged people with non-emergency conditions to stay away after the cyberattack affected large parts of the country's National Health Service. 45 NHS organizations were hit, while a large number of Spanish companies were also attacked using ransomware. "We're not able to tell who's behind the attack," Home Secretary Amber Rudd told the BBC on Saturday. "It's not targeted at the NHS, it feels random in terms of where it's happened." She said she'd been told there was no evidence of patient data being stolen, and said the hack was partly the result of people using outdated operating systems. "Windows XP is not a good platform for keeping your data secure," she said. Hospitals in London, Northwest England and Central England have all been affected, according to the BBC. Mid-Essex Clinical Commissioning Group, which runs hospitals and ambulances in an area east of London, said on Twitter that it had an IT issue affecting some NHS computer systems, adding, "Please do not attend accident and emergency unless it's an emergency." The impact on services is not due to the ransomware itself, but due to NHS trusts shutting systems to prevent it from spreading, said Brian Lord, a former Deputy Director of Government Communications Headquarters, GCHQ, the UK's Signals Intelligence Agency, who is now Managing Director of cybersecurity firm PGI Cyber. Lord, who described an attack of this type as inevitable, said the impact was exacerbated because most NHS trusts had a poor understanding of network configuration, meaning everything has to shut down. A screenshot of an apparent ransom message sent to a hospital showed a demand for $300 in Bitcoin for files that had been encrypted to be decrypted. Workers across the NHS have since been sent emails from the health services IT teams warning not to open or click on suspicious attachments or links. Spain's National Cryptologic Center, which is part of the country's intelligence agency, said on its website that there had been a massive ransomware attack against a big number of Spanish organizations affecting Microsoft's Windows operating system. El Mundo reported that the attackers sought a ransom in Bitcoin. Today many of our customers around the world and the critical systems they depend on were victims of malicious WannaCrypt software, Philip Missner, Principal Security Group Manager at Microsoft's Security Response Center, said in a statement on the company's website. Seeing businesses and individuals affected by cyber attacks, such as the ones reported today, was painful. Missner said the company took the highly unusual step of releasing free security patches for unsupported out-of-date operating systems, including Windows XP and Windows Server 2003. While Friday's attack could damage the reputation of Microsoft's security, it's likely to be limited, said Sid Parak, a fund manager at Baker Capital Management, which owns Microsoft stock. There have been so many high-profile hacks that if a fix is available, it's the user's responsibility to download it, he said. Every time this happens it hurts the underlying product's reputation, Parak said. But Microsoft has been in a worse state in the past. Ransomware typically gets onto a computer when a person unsuspectingly downloads a file that looks like a normal attachment or web link. A hacker can then trigger the malware to freeze the computer, prompting a person to pay a ransom or lose all their files. Hospitals have been a common target because the culprits know how critical digital records are for treating patients. There have been several incidents in the U.S., including one in Indiana where a hospital's IT system was taken down and patients had to be diverted to other facilities, according to a local news report. Ransomware attacks have also been soaring. The number of such attacks increased 50% in 2016, according to an April report from Verizon Communications Incorporated. These types of attacks account for 72% of all the malware incidents involving the healthcare industry in 2016, according to Verizon. The large-scale cyber attack on our NHS today is a huge wake-up call, said Jamie Graves, Chief Executive Officer of cybersecurity company ZoneFox. Andrew Barrett, Managing Principal of Coalfire, a company which provides cybersecurity risk assessments to the healthcare sector, said that many NHS hospitals used personal computers with outdated Windows-based operating systems, which makes them easy to attack. He said many of these systems were too old to patch and that many NHS trusts did not spend enough time on technical best practices and audits, leaving them vulnerable to a variety of potential cyber attacks, including ransomware. The cyber attack that spread rapidly around the globe was stifled when a security researcher disabled a key mechanism used by the worm to spread, but experts said the hackers were likely to return as many computers remain at risk. Hackers can still gain easy access to personal computers that lack a security update issued in March by Microsoft Corporation to fix the vulnerability in its Windows operating system. The company had labeled the patch as critical. The malware, using a technique purportedly stolen from the U.S. National Security Agency, stopped care in hospitals across the UK, affected Russia's Ministry of Interior and infected company computer systems in countries from Eastern Europe to the US and Asia. While most organizations won't suffer as much as the UK healthcare facilities, the incident renewed the debate about the risk of governments stockpiling flaws in commercial technology and using them for hacking attacks. In the UK, 16 organizations in the National Health Service were infected, and hospitals in London, Northwest England and Central England urged people with non-emergency conditions to stay away as technicians tried to stop the spread of the malicious software. Healthcare organizations are notoriously slow to apply security fixes, in part because of the disruption caused by taking critical systems offline. That has made them a reliable victim of ransomware attacks, such as that on Friday in which hackers encrypted data on infected computers and demanded $300 in Bitcoin to unlock it. Many security professionals and even some in law enforcement recommend paying the ransom in such cases as the fastest way to get the data back. Last year an acute care hospital in Hollywood paid $17,000 in Bitcoin to an extortionist who hijacked its computer systems and forced doctors and staff to revert to pen and paper for record-keeping. Hospitals are also fertile ground for identity thieves because of their often lax security policies. Bloomberg Businessweek wrote in 2015 about a spate of malware infections at hospitals where radiological machines, blood gas analyzers and other devices were compromised and used to siphon off the personal data of patients. Business targets. Other victims were most likely small and medium-sized businesses. Some larger organizations, such as Spain's Telefonica SA and FedEx Corporation, were also infected. A spokesman for Telefonica said the hack affected some employees at its headquarters, but the Spanish phone company is attacked frequently and the impact of Friday's incident wasn't major. FedEx said it was experiencing interference, the Associated Press reported. French carmaker Renault halted production at some factories to stop the virus from spreading, a spokesman said. While any sized company could be vulnerable, many large organizations with robust security departments would have prioritized the update that Microsoft released in March and wouldn't be vulnerable to Friday's attack. Ransomware is a particularly stubborn problem because victims are often tricked into allowing the malicious software to run on their computers, and the encryption happens too fast for security software to catch it. Some security experts calculate that ransomware may bring in as much as $1 billion a year in revenue for the attackers. Global victims. More than 75,000 computers in 99 countries were compromised in Friday's attack, with a heavy concentration of infections in Russia and Ukraine, according to Dutch security company Avast Software BV. Russia's Interior Ministry, with oversees the country's police forces, said around 1,000 computers were infected, which it described as less than 1% of the total, the New York Times reported. The ministry said technicians had stopped the attack and were updating the department's antivirus defense systems, according to the Times. Microsoft cited its March security update and said it had added detection and protection against the new malware after it was reported. "We are working with customers to provide additional assistance," the company said in a blog posting. The attack was apparently halted in the afternoon in the UK when a researcher took control of an internet domain that acted as a kill switch for the worm's propagation, according to Ars Technica. "I will confess that I was unaware registering the domain would stop the malware until after I registered it, so initially it was accidental," wrote the researcher, who uses the Twitter name @MalwareTechBlog. "So long as the domain isn't revoked, this particular strain will no longer cause harm, but patch your systems ASAP as they will try again." There is a high probability that Russian-language cybercriminals were behind the attack, said Alex Kostov, chief cybersecurity expert for Kaspersky Labs. "Ransomware is traditionally their topic," he said. "The geography of attacks that hit post-Soviet Union most also suggests that